Hey everyone, and welcome to the Beyond Life and Fitness podcast. I'm Cheryl Patton.
And I'm Megan Prince.
We started this podcast as a way to connect with more people who are struggling to fit it all in. The workouts, the food, kids, work, and relationships.
We know that we're not perfect, but we hope that through our struggles and our mistakes and our failures and our successes that we can help more people through their challenges and be successful. So if you want some tips and tricks to help you along your journey to be the best version of yourself, then this is it.
All right, we're rolling. Okay, so as we get closer to the end of the year, I thought it might be a good idea to talk about goals and why, when you're choosing to set goals, why those goals should feel slightly uncomfortable. I think when you decide to set a goal, usually when you do that, regardless whether it's health related, financial related, job related, relationship related, I don't think it really matters. It always feels exciting at first, right? You kind of have these feelings of excitement and hope and possibility, and things are going to change. So there's almost like a transformation feeling about it, and then you have sometimes that inner talk starts happening, right? Like, what are you thinking? Do you really think that's possible?
Do you need to do that?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I thought we would sort of talk about why your goal should feel a little bit uncomfortable, regardless of the type of goal you have, because I truly think when you set a goal for yourself that feels uncomfortable, it feels uncomfortable because you're wanting to step into a different version of yourself in some way, shape, or form. And that's scary. That's uncomfortable. That's an unknown. You don't know how it's going to go. You don't know how quickly this goal might get reached, which then can kind of tie into another little blurb. But, I think, stepping into a different version of you. And I think when people get uncomfortable with that realization, that's when they tend to quit. And, with us being in the fitness world, I've definitely have seen it. People will go through, a program. They're doing great. They're seeing, change. And then I think almost that slight, I don't want to say like identity crisis, because I don't think that's fully what it is. But when they see that different version of them coming out, it's like, is this the version that I want now? Is this right? And then if they're not too sure, they quit, old habits creep back in, and now they're back to square one, and they're back to their comfort zone, but they're not truly where they want to be. Right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. So, so I think stepping into that different version of you, creating those different habits, letting certain beliefs about yourself or your situation go, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah, the best quote I heard once was, your kids can't be your reason and your excuse. And I'm like, oh, damn it. Like, I was like, come on, they have to be, right?
To be one or the other.
I was like, one or the other. But you're right. They can't be, like, you can't use your circumstances to say that I can't do this. I think the biggest thing I found is when I say that I can't do something or I can't change something, that I just wake up and I'm like, you can change anything you want. You can do anything you want. But the thing that happens with that is sometimes you might lose people in your life, lose friendships, lose relationships. People might judge you. People might talk about you. But I think that we have to be willing to step into that new version of ourselves, which means being uncomfortable, and which means, really, like, there's different people that are going to come into our life. Because what I was thinking about lately is there's some friendships in my life that I've been trying to, like, hold together because we've been friends for so long, right? And you're like, I'm trying to hold this friendship together, but it's a different phase of your life. It's a different chapter of your life. And some of those people will continue with you, and some of those people won't, because they aren't helpful to your progress, right?
They're not in alignment with what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and which is totally fine. But I think when they come in and it's detrimental to your progress, then that's where you're like, okay, like, they don't necessarily, I feel like, have to be like, oh, I'm going to do everything you're going to do, but maybe they'll support you. Maybe they'll be there with you, then I'm like, okay, those are the friends that, yes, they can stay in your life and they're a part of your journey, but the ones that, really don't see what you're doing, really don't support what you're doing, then I feel like it's like, when you make those things, it's changing relationships, changing goals, changing things. So you have to be ready for all the stuff that comes with these things, and not necessarily fitness goals, but, like financial goals or career goals. Some people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that you're just making that huge career switch or something. And you'll lose work friends, you'll lose people that you've known for 20 years because you're changing your job or because you're changing your identity, right? And if you're always that party girl who's always in college, I was always that party girl, right? Like I was always the one that was drunk and dancing and always bringing people together.
Too,
I danced on speakers and in cages. But I was always that party girl. And then as soon as I started getting up and going to the gym and changing what I was eating and saying no to pizza and maybe not drinking as much, it definitely changed relationships and people in my life, because that's kind of just how it went. And at the time, I think only until the last 5 or 6 years, it was like really hard to lose those friendships, because you're like, maybe I'm not a good person. Maybe if I didn't hold that relationship together, then that means that, whatever. I don't know. But now I've just kind of just stopped trying to control everything and then just let things go. And the people that are going to jump on your journey with you are the people that are going to help you get better and do better, right?
100%. 100%. And again, making sort of that mini identity shift, depending on the type of goal that you're setting, how lofty it is, how grandeur it is, making that identity shift is challenging. It's challenging mentally, and you have to be willing to fail many times along that road or along that path. Because again, there's going to be times and moments where you're going to slip back into some old habits, or like you said, you may then come around that old circle of friends and they just kind of pull you in for a little bit, and then you're like, nope, this is not what I want. And then you have to kind of step yourself back away from that group of friends, situation, environment, whatever the case might be. And when you kind of look back at a term that we've heard a lot of in the fitness world, which is like setting those SMART goals, right? So it's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, and it's timely. And I think when people pick a goal, especially one that is definitely going to challenge them in some way, shape, or form, and they have this deadline on it, which I get, like fitness people, like we will run programs that are 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever. So yes, there's a beginning and there's an end. But I think when you have those deadlines like that and you haven't reached whatever goal you have set out, so say in 8 weeks you want to lose 30 pounds and you got only to 20, well, now you're feeling, well, that program was a complete failure. I'm a failure. I didn't reach it. What's the point? Either I'm going to go find a different program to try, or I'm just going to give up and not go, not looking back at what they did achieve. Like 20 pounds is amazing, but all they're seeing is what they didn't get. And we've talked about that before, like all these lists that you want to do in a day, and then you write down all your lists and you don't finish those things. But if you wrote at the end of the day all the things you actually did, then you could see, like, this is the progress I've made. It's never, like we've always talked about, it's never going to be fast enough. It's never going to be what you want. It's never going to be the pace that you want at all. But I think the goals setting comes down to, especially when you have people in your life and that kind of stuff, is this goal going to change who you are as a person? Like the party girl who's now turned fitness girl and whatever. Yes, that's going to completely change who you are. But if it's like something like... But it could even be somebody who wants to just get their finances turned around. Right? Like somebody who might be $10, $20, $50,000 in debt and just wants to get out of that debt. Well, you have got some big goals and habits and lifestyle changes that you have to do in order to make that happen. And you have to be willing to go through that uncomfortableness, right, of not spending how you spend your money
and changing cycles and changing cycles and habits, right? And those are things that I think is like the hardest thing, because there's those times where you just go back into it, where you want to go back into it. And I posted a thing about goals today and how like I'm the one that like I set a goal and then I have so many goals that just keep going. Like I'm almost like, okay, and I go goals and then I get motivated and I'm like, okay, then I could do this and then I can do this and then I can do this. And I'm just like, oh my God, Meg, like just focus, because I'm like ADHD with goals all over the place.
Right.
So it's like, let's just focus on what couple things do you want to work on, because the other thing that happens is when you reach a goal, when you're progressing towards something that you love, it changes every aspect of your life. So then you're like, oh my God, I could do better in this and I could do better in this. And you're just like, oh my gosh. Like as soon as people start losing weight and feeling better and have the energy, then their relationships are better. Yes. And then like their house life is better with their family and like friendships and activities they want to do. So I feel like once you start getting into that goal-oriented growth mindset, then it's like everything changes when you start setting those goals. And the other quote I read the other day was like, whatever you measure will progress. And that's like so key, because I always think to myself, why do I measure my macros? Why am I measuring my weight? Why am I doing all this stuff? Because here's the thing, and we all know, accountability is so key in doing anything, because if not, you're just going to like, if you don't measure it, then it's so easy to just go off track. It's 100%. So easy to just go off. And I heard about them talking about how people don't weigh themselves, because there's people that are like, I can't weigh myself. It freaks me out. I just don't like it. It just like, it will deter me from my results. But really, it's just a fear of maybe I failed this week, or maybe I didn't do good enough. So it's like, there is, it's different obviously with people with eating disorders and people that have suffered with stuff like that. Then I definitely say like, you're recovering from something. Yeah. But when you're coming down to it, whatever you measure will progress, because how can you progress if you're not measuring it, because you don't even know where you started from? Yeah. It's like when you write out your workouts. Yeah. I can't be like, oh, I used to do like 15 pounds in shoulder press and now I'm 40, but I won't even remember that, because daily workouts, you're not remembering what you did 2 years ago. No. So you have to like write it down.
Yeah. Like I've got workouts in a file that are, I don't know how many years old. So, and again, like it's kind of funny to go and look back at those and say, oh, look at that.
Look what I did. But if you never wrote that down, you didn't have anything to measure. Yeah. And so sometimes people get so hard on me. Why are you doing macros? And why do you measure this? And why are you so strict on yourself? But I'm like, it's not necessarily being strict. Like I told you, when life gets busy, the first thing to go is your self-care.
In any way, shape, or form.
Because I don't even remember the last time I got a massage. So I bet you if I wrote down in a book, Meg's massage book, like I would actually see that I haven't had a massage in like 2 years. Like I would be like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. But for me, time keeps passing. Yes. You know? So I'm like, oh, it's been a while since I've had one. But if you looked at a chart and you're like, oh my gosh, the last time I did that, or the last time I got a physical by the doctor, like you're just like, oh, and then 5 years go by and you're like, oh my gosh, it's been that long. Yeah. So yeah, not everything you have to measure in life, but how are you going to increase your finances if you're not looking at them and being like, I have to break all this budget down. I have to know how much I have to save. I have to know how much I saved that month. Yeah. Because if you don't measure, it's not going to progress. And I thought, oh my God, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's an amazing quote.
So cool. Yeah. I forget who said it.
Yeah. That's okay.
It's in my head.
That's all right. Oh. But yeah, and again, and that goes with anything. And I think some people, even with relationships, right? Like you can be writing down in a journal how a relationship is making you feel.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Right? Yes. Because then you can look back and 6 months later,
see how the relationship is either growing
or the same thing still happening
or breaking down.
And you're like, oh my God, I was saying the same thing 6 months ago, that he wasn't giving me what I wanted or he wasn't showing up. And here 6 months later, we're writing the same thing. Yeah. But we don't know that, because in our heads, we're thinking, oh no, things are gotten better a little bit, or he's tried here. But if you're still saying the same things later, so you're right. Like, yes, when you write things down, when you realize where you're at in certain places, it helps you to measure where you're coming from so that you can actually, so like it's measurable. So you can, goals need to be measurable, or else what? Yeah. No, you're just throwing caution to the wind and being like, I hope I meet this goal, but it doesn't really matter if I don't.
Yeah, and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you hate the job that you're in, you want to find a different job that's closer to something that you're more passionate in. Mm-hmm. Right? Like you're going to take the time to really research, figure out, okay, what exactly is it that I want? Mm-hmm. And then you start looking, you start going, you start making a plan to start looking at different companies, who's hiring. You're going on LinkedIn, you're going on whatever, you're reaching out to friends, you're reaching out to past coworkers, whatever the case might be, to see if anybody knows anything about a possibility. Right? But if you don't take the time to really figure out what it is that you want, how is it that you, like, how do you know where it is that you are trying to land?
Yeah, and I had a friend, I was out with her the other night and we were having a chat about stuff, and I was like, well, what do you want? And she's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but the thing is that, and I can't say that I always know what I want either. I just want something different, but I don't know what it is. You know what I mean? You're just like, this isn't working, but I don't know how to make it different. So it's like, we have to be so specific on what we want, and we have to know, because if we're like, this isn't working, or this isn't what I want, but then what is it that you want? Because then you're in this conflict with yourself of, what do I really want, but what do I not really want? What's the real goal? You know, so it's like, yeah, it's so hard to be specific on those goals that you want and why you want them.
But I think that's where journaling in some way, shape, or form, it could be doodling on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And just sort of like brain dumping.
Yeah.
Whenever thoughts come in, right? Whenever an idea comes in, just brain dump it. And then all of a sudden you may just like, oh my goodness, there it is.
There it is.
Right?
Yeah.
But that is where it takes being patient and being willing to try something and fail, and then learn from that and say, okay, that wasn't obviously the right way. So let's just kind of keep figuring things out until I can nail this down better.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Your goals should be uncomfortable, my friends. Thanks everybody for listening today, and we truly appreciate you. And let us know what your biggest takeaway was today, and if you have any questions you want answered on the podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to automatically receive your episodes and to help us reach more listeners. We would love to connect with you on our socials, either Facebook or Instagram, with links in the show notes. Till next time, keep taking those small steps towards your best life.